Alright everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Best Brew Ever. Last week we did the oatmeal stout. It's still fermenting. I haven't had a chance to sample that one yet. This week we are going to do a Hefeweizen. And last week I mentioned Final Gravity homebrew supplies here on the south side of Indianapolis. I also ordered this from them kind of all at the same time. So we're getting to that one in this episode. The truth to you is I do not like wheat beers. I don't like them. There are exceptions, like Gumball Head. I didn't even know that was a wheat beer. For a while after I drank it, it was really good. So I guess you can do things with wheat beer. I guess traditional wheat beers like a Hefeweizen, I really don't like. So why would I make it? Well, I've never made a Hefeweizen, and I need something in the keg fast. I should have made that first. Just whatever reason I didn't. It's just so I could get something in the keg. I should have made that first. But we're making it in this episode. Hopefully, and the reason for the Hefeweizen is make it, drink it as fast as possible, because the Hefeweizen style is cloudy. They're made to drink young. I'm sure you could still get great results if you aged it a little bit or did whatever. I don't know. Like I said, I really don't like it. I guess the banana clove taste is what I don't like, and that's what they're known for. So it's kind of dumb, but I just wanted to try it, and I don't think that I don't like them to buy them, like, go out and get me some from the store or something like that, or if I'm at a bar or somewhere, I'm not going to order one. But I don't think I'm going to have a problem drinking them, here. And it's not that I don't like them so much that it kills me, or I'm like, oh, this is agony drinking this beer. No, it's not going to have that problem, but it's just the style is not my favorite. And who knows, maybe I'll come to like them. Maybe I don't want to put myself into that's a whatever, I don't like that, that's a whatever, I'll give it a shot, give it another shot, why not? So just for the sake of, plus it was one of the cheapest things on there on the website, so that had a little bit to do with it. So it was somewhat of a partial mash. As you'll see, there wasn't much grain. I think it was some white wheat, and that was about it. It wasn't very much of it. So it was mostly extract. It's pretty simple recipe. I think the yeast is like the main ingredient in this as far as flavor, getting that clove and banana flavoring. But we'll go ahead and see more about that when we have our brew day shortly. I really don't have a lot in this intro. There was something I wanted to cover, but right now I have forgotten. So maybe I'll remember in the next episode. But I still want to, I think, the subscribers who's sticking around, keep watching my channel. I really appreciate it, and I would like to thank you again for coming back and seeing what's new. Like I said, I've got things in the works as far as me moving forward with my homebrewing career. I don't know, it's not really a career, but my homebrewing adventures. And I made some purchases, and I'm going to make some purchases. But just everything's crazy right now. My schedule is so tight for brewing, and so hopefully, I can get to it. Hopefully, when the weather gets a little bit better, it's springtime. That's gonna bring all grains back to the show, and which I'm really excited about. Even though they're longer brew sessions, they do produce a little bit better beers, and I'm sure there's other things I can do to get better results from the extracts, but I haven't really mastered anything yet. So I'm still trying. I'm still figuring things out. And there's extract batches I want to try, things I want to try in them. And what I was doing in last season was trying to figure out cheap ways to make decent beers, so I can have something kind of always on tap, something fast and easy. And really, I'm sure a lot of people out there are saying, you already figured it out. And I don't know, I've come across this book. I don't know. Most people, Charlie Papazian is the godfather of homebrewing, and that is probably the oldest homebrew book that everybody has pretty much, gotten in contact with. And I came across it. A couple homebrew books were given to me. Somebody was out of the hobby or whatever, and so yeah, I snatched them up. And I went through that, and there it was, corn sugar. I had made the mistake of using table sugar, and even doing research with that, it said I had seen something say that you can use table sugar, but only like 10% of the fermentable sugars. Anything more than that, it's going to give it that sour flavor. So I pushed the envelope, and in that one of the beers I had made, I don't think I showed it, or maybe I did show it. I think it was the fast brew in the speed brew in the New Year's mashup, the Cavalcade, and so I learned my lesson with that. And I still think I had made one, I think it was the Bankrupt Brown, or the Bankrupt Bitter, that I showed, and it worked out with just 10% of, so I mean, you can still do it, but I think I'm going to try. I might, anybody who's read, The Joy of Homebrewing, knows his little recipe that he comes up with, but this is like 13 gallons or something like that. But might try that on one of the episodes. This pre-hopped can of extract, corn sugar, and with whatever yeast, and but he puts like vitamin C and different nutrients and stuff. I don't think I'm going to do that, but I might do that just to see. I just want to see how that would taste, what it comes out like, what it is, what style. I guess just whatever style extracts you put in there. So I might give that a shot. I'm definitely going to try to probably start working with the corn sugar as a cheaper alternative. But as far as my home brewing, I'm not going to do everything on the cheap, kind of cheap methods. There's still going to be full all grain nice beers that I'm gonna make, so you don't think, man, this is gonna get kind of boring, because I still want to make one. I seen on actually on the Final Gravity, it was a Neapolitan stout, and it says you can get, the more you age it, you get chocolate, vanilla, strawberry flavors at different points of the aging process. So that sounded pretty good, man. So I definitely think I'm gonna try that one. I want to revisit the Walking Dead Pale Ale, because if you remember, with this bad boy right here, I couldn't get the lid off to dry hop it, and I could have I guess easily kegged it and then dry hopped it in the keg, but I think I was brewing something and I didn't have another bag, but I could have just bought another bag. There's other things I could have done, but I didn't do it. I'm sorry. But I want to revisit that, try the dry hopping. It was a good pale ale. Like I said, that had the orange flavor, like orange juice at the beginning, and then it just dissipated and became like a regular pale ale. So like I said, I've never had, it's supposed to be similar to Zombie Dust, and I've never had Zombie Dust, so I don't know if it's close. Just turned out to be a pale ale. It was still good, very drinkable, but I just want to see the difference with the dry hopping. And I want to revisit some other things, maybe some past beers, and definitely move forward into creating my own beers, because that's really probably the coolest thing about home brewing, is that you can create your own thing, your own beer. And that what really kind of sold me on home brewing, is the creative aspect of it, because I could just buy everybody's kits, like I do a lot of, but I'm doing that to try to learn the styles and learn the brewing processes. And but when I first started, I think it was like my third batch of beer. I just said, oh, well, I know how to brew, and I was doing extracts. I didn't know what I was doing really, but I was just doing extracts, and I was like, I know how to do it. So I just went on a website and bought this, and it came out good. It came out a good beer. I might want to try to revisit that, because I'm certain my palate has changed, and I want to see if that was in fact a good beer, or if I was just happy that it got me drunk. So I don't know. We might revisit that later. So there's a lot of things. I'm moving forward, like I said, with equipment too. I've made some purchases, and since we started this whole thing, I think maybe I'll do one episode and kind of show, just in the first season, which there wasn't even that many episodes in the first season, just within that time, little things that I bought. So I might kind of show that, and how my homebrew endeavors have kind of evolved a little bit more than before, when I was just kind of brewing. I would do a couple beers, and then I might do 2 a year, I might do any a year, 1 a year. Just depends on how I was doing it. So as opposed to that, I'm I think since October of last year, I had 5 or 6 beers. So that's already probably the most I've done in years. So I'm happy with the way this is going. I'm happy with the fact that I'm getting some good feedback from you guys. I appreciate that. And I can keep rambling about whatever, but I think we're just going to go ahead and get into the brew session. This is the Hefeweizen, the Hefe on the name of it, from Final Gravity. shout out to them guys here in Indianapolis. Check it out. Thanks for watching. Alright everybody, here I brought about 3 gallons to 155 degrees for my strike water. I have my steeping grains in the nylon bag. Just gonna donut dunk it in there just to make sure that all the grain are nice and moistened, and we can, you know, extract any flavor or color into this beer. For this is it's a very small portion of grain, so we want to make sure that we don't have any dry spots inside there. And this is gonna sit for about 30 minutes. Alright, 30 minutes later, our grains should be steeped, and we're going to just let it drain. I have a little handle on my cabinets that I just tie it up to. You can figure out however you want to do it. A lot of people have a little strainer. They'll sit in there and just let it strain out. Once you think the grain bag has been strained sufficiently, discard grains and move on to the next step. Next, we will put our first 3-pound light Pilsen dry malt extract into the batch. The heat is still off at this point. We don't want to scorch any of these sugars in there. After you get this out of the bag, try to incorporate it the best as possible. You see all the marshmallow-like clumps on top. You want to get those, but don't forget the sugars that are on the bottom. You want to make sure everything is mixed well, or else you're going to get some scorching. It's not going to be good. And you want to get everything incorporated into the wort, so you know, your yeast have everything it needs to make the alcohol of the beer. Next, we are going to incorporate our 3.3 pound Bavarian wheat liquid malt extract, and make sure you it's always a good idea to heat it up in a bowl of warm water or a saucepan. But remember, it's in a plastic container, so don't boil it or anything like that, because that most likely will melt. But just heat it up in some warm water, let it sit for a while. You can see how thick it is. On this one, I actually forgot to do it until I already started making the beer, so it didn't really sit in the warm water for as much as I normally do. So that's why it was a little bit more thick. But I got as much out as I could, and then I actually put some of the hot wort into the container. And a lot of people might get freaked out about that, because thinking about what's on the container, but it's gonna boil anyway, so it's gonna pasteurize the beer, and it was already in some other hot water, so it should be pretty much clean. Let that sit for just a little bit, put the lid on, shook it a little bit, and got the rest of the contents out. Make sure, like the dry malt extract, you stir as much as possible, and just because you're gonna have the scorching problem, more so with this than the other, because it's so syrupy, and you just need to make sure you get the bottom of this more than anything. Just
try to get it much incorporated. It's super thick and it takes a while. Once everything's incorporated, we're gonna bring our wort to a boil, and you can see it's breaking surface tension, so that kind of indicates that it's time to throw in our hops. But at this point, you have to make sure that you don't have boil overs, because you can see my brew kettle here does not have very much room for the rise in the wort. So like, you know, I have in the past, a cold spray bottle is a good idea to have handy, because you don't want to burn yourself, and you do not want the stuff to go all over your stove. It will just stick and cake and mess and crust and be horrible. So this is the time right now to keep an eye on it. Get your hops in there, get that, you know, good and incorporated. As you see how I've done this time. In the last episode, I had the problem with all the wort staying in my hot bag, and there's my cold water showing you there. This time I kind of tied the string around the cluster of hops in the bottom, so I didn't have that problem this time. It was great. It worked. Same thing with the grains in the grain bag. I did the same thing with that. Worked great. It's something I've learned in these past months, and I'm going to continue to use that in my brewing methods now. And you can see it's getting crazy. Look at it. Look at it. Shoot it. Shoot, it's going crazy. I got a little scared. I was going to take it off. Just blasting the hell out of it. Blast it. Want some of this? What? Yeah. But finally, you can see there it kind of subsided, and I did turn it down just a little bit, kind of knowing your stove, or you know, your burners, whatever you're heating this on. You know, you kind of know your levels, and you know, just keep an eye on it, know what you're doing, know your levels. There's a difference. I mean, you can have, this is a very vigorous boil. I mean, you can have it as just a less vigorous boil, but this stove is acting up, and it kind of goes from like 0 to 60 in no time. You know, there's like nothing in the middle. So that's the only problem I'm having with this stove right now. But just keep an eye on it, and you're gonna let it sit in there for 30 minutes. No, an hour. Excuse me. Now. An hour, and then we'll see what happens next. Alright, an hour is up, and I'm gonna retrieve our hops out of the brew kettle. You can see it did get a little bit of wort stuck in there, but that's actually in the top part of the bag. But it was nowhere near, if you remember from the last episode, that big, I don't know what, it was just a big balloon of wort stuck in there that I had to get rid of, which sucked. But so after I drained the hot bag, now we are having our chill bath here. And after it's chilled, we go to filling the fermenter to the 5-gallon mark. And then once again, you're done. Everything's sanitized. Got your sanitized lid, bucket, airlock. Filling the airlock with sanitizer to the line. that in the top. Click.